Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you guys are enjoying these stories and these videos that I've been posting so far. I have been enjoying these videos and reading and these stories and making these videos for you guys. And I do have other channels like a vlogging channel and a podcast and other social media accounts like Instagram, Facebook, etc. They're all going to be in the description below. And I'm just going to get right into the story. This one is called Bloody Mary Returns. My stepmother was a vil. I guess most kids think that when their father remarries. But in this case, it was true. She only married father because he was rich, and she hated children. There were the three of us: me, Mary, my middle brother Richard, and my youngest brother Charles. We were the price of my stepmother Gerda paid for being rich. And we were all that stood between her and my father's money when he died. So she took steps against us. She sent my youngest brother Charles away to boarding school overseas and had a good scholarship reproduction not reproduction I'm sorry repulsion, but also had it hard for being for but also had the reputation for being a hard school that was filled with bullies and strict discipline. Not the place where a delicate child like Charles, who had been sickly as a baby, would thrive. He was miserable there. Somehow Rita contrived to keep him there for all but the summer holidays. When he came home the first year, he was pale, thin, and dark circles under his eyes that looked like bruises. He cried. He actually cried. When father told him he had to go back to school, but father didn't listen to him. Gerda thought it would be good for him to go there. And so Charles went. I did everything I could, encouraging letters, daily phone calls, until Gerda, I'm going to keep assuming it's Gerda, said it was too expensive and restrict calls for 5 minutes once a month. I even got father to book me a ticket to Europe so I could go visit Charles. Gerda was enraged and found out. Her blue eyes went so cold that made chills run up my spine, and pink mouth thin into bitter line, and blade ill for me since I dared to infer. 2 days before my plane left to Europe, the school called and told us Charles had climbed up to the tallest tower and flung himself. He was dead. Father was shocked, of course, and Gerda was quietly fright. I don't know how to pronounce that word. In a few months, father paid more attention to Richard and myself than he had since our mother died. But Gerda was beautiful and had winning her ways about her that soon drew my father's attentions away. And now that one of her hated stepchildren was dead, she focused on another. Poor Richard was next. Richard studied chap who was about to enter high school. He had really he really into got into sports. He would thrive at boarding school that had killed Charles. So Gerda sent him to art school instead. He hated it, but Gerda had told but she had told father that he had talent, so there he went. You'd think my father would learn his lesson with Charles. But Richard was a survivor and grandly practiced piano and violin when he had rather played soccer and football. But Gerda was clever. She introduced Richard to a couple high school boys who were everything Richard craved to be: rich, popular, on the football team, and into drugs. Gerda made sure Richard had a large allowances and kept increasing as Richard was drawn deeper and deeper into the influence, until one day Richard overdosed. Gerda had only one stepchild left, me. Yes, for sure. Was sure. Sure that Gerda knew Richard had doing drugs in his room every day. She knew he was ill, possible dying in there. He, if she found him even 10 minutes sooner, his life would have been saved. So said the doctor, and I believed him. But father couldn't believe me. He was angry whenever I said anything against Gerda and told me to hold my tongue. Still, I had knew I was next, and I was sure that father would not live longer after willing his fortune over his wife, future over his wife. I decided that if Gerda got to bed, I would run away and live secretly with my aunt in New Jersey until I turned 18. From the moment Richard's body was found in his room, I forced myself to be a model child. My homework was done on time. I was polite to Gerda and all her friends. I went to all my family's events with Gerda and father, even the dangerous ones like shark fishing. You can be sure that I took care of the seasick indoors and stayed away from the edge of the boat. Gerda was clever with her tricks. Everyone thought it was an accident every time. Hold on. Sorry about that. Everyone thought it was an accident the time we were out shopping and I fell into the subway in front of the outcoming train. I imagined to roll out of the way on time, but it was so close to comfort. I had almost decided to run away when my father brought me the sad news that my aunt in New Jersey had died suddenly in her sleep, poisoned by some persons unknown. I applaud. How had Gerda known? But I could not tell from the smirk on her face. I went to my room that night and locked myself in to think I could run away, but the money wouldn't last long. I had needed to finish high school or any chances of getting a job were nil. Besides Gerda, I would still be still be out there somewhere. If I could hire someone to poison only living relative besides father, she would be someone who would kill me, whether I was living at home or not. There was only one thing I could think of, and it would be a terrible thing. A family secret passed down from my mother's side for many generations. It was involved with a witch named Bloody Mary, who had once tried to kill many times great grandmothers, and the children's blood make herself and beautiful after forever. The witch had stopped my father's children and many times great grandfathers. And nick of time, and witch had cursed him as she burned at stake, cursed his mirror and the mirrors of all the men who had commanded her to death at the stake, so that everyone saying her name in front of those mirrors would invoke of her vengeful spirit. The story had gotten mixed up all over the years as it passed down first into the village, then in the all over county. These days, school kids would everywhere scare themselves with silly chanting Bloody Mary's name in front of the darkness mirrors, turning over parties, and nothing happened to them. So no one really believes the curse. Of course, no one knew the real bloody story of Bloody Mary. It was deep secret handed down by the villagers of long ago, but the direct of the dependents knew that I knew how summoned the witch. I had to be you had to use a mirror owned by someone direct line of one of the original families who lived in Bloody Mary's village, and which name must be spoken candlelight in certain numbers of their native tongue. It was an evil thing to do, I knew, but it was the only way to save my life. I knew either Greta or me. If I hadn't fight back, I was dead. So I took my hard-earned money and went out to a special store and had hand-dipped beeswax candles, black ones. I followed my mother's directions carefully, placing them in certain intervals around the living room so they can reflect on a huge mirror behind the couch. Then I lit each one, speaking the spell passed down to my mother's family, and I waited. Father was away from business trip, and Gerda was at a party with her latest boyfriend. She knew she came home late and scolded me for staying up to study. Her voice was playful and light. Hated that voice. She made it sound like she was so nice, but also no suspicion underlying towards her words, and staring hard of flickering candles. Holding a sense, little Mary, she asked, emphasizing the word little, knowing I hated to be called that. I just I just like working by candlelight, I said. Gerda frowned. You know, little Mary, I think we had to talk. Yes, I said softly, we should. You kill my brothers and my aunt, but I won't let you kill me. She laughed. If you stood chance against me. I spoke Bloody Mary's name in a native tongue of my ancestors. Once, twice, and 3 times, inside the mirror, an image of Gerda burst out with flames. "Gerda!" groaned Bloody Mary. "Come get me, Gerda." She opened her arms, stepmother's, into her arms. Gerda's terrifying scream was suddenly cut off. The flames disappeared instantly, as they had to come. When I speak out of the behind of the couch, Gerda and Bloody Mary's were gone. As I called Father at his hotel the next morning to tell him Gerda hadn't come home. Well, it was true. He wasn't pleased. He called a few friends from the hotel, quickly discovered she was carrying another man with another man with silver if he was known. Father hated definitely and flew him once to comfort Gerda, but she was missing, presumed from run away from her flames. Somehow, Father managed to divorce Gerda without even trying to find her. And since she had no family except for us, everyone except to cover the story, and no one ever tried to locate her. Gerda was gone for good, and Father and I were saved at last. So let me know what your guys' thoughts were in this story, and if you guys enjoyed the story, feel free to let me know by liking, subscribing, etc., and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!